Welcome to the AEN Stories channel.
I turned 45 the week I discovered how much damage one sentence can do. Not a confession, not a manifesto, just a joke that wasn't a joke, tossed into a room full of people who loved us enough to clap at speeches. Some words arrive like confetti. Some arrive like shrapnel. You don't know which is which until you're picking them out of your skin. My name is Michael. I run operations for a regional moving company, warehouse schedules, broken dollies, the choreography of getting other people's stuff from one place to another without breaking the things they can't admit they care about. I married Sophie at 27 in a church with fake ivy and an air conditioner that quit in the middle of the vows. It became part of the legend, sweat on my forehead, laughter in the pews, Sophie's veil sticking to her lipstick as she grinned at me like we were in on a joke the rest of the world would never get. We have a son, Liam. He's 16 and mostly legs and certainty. He drives now, which means I spend an unreasonable amount of time studying weather and the positions of other cars on the highway like I can control physics with my mind. He has his mother's eyes and my habit of saying I'm fine when he means I'm not ready. Our best friend, my best friend, if we're using the map drawn over 22 years, was Eric. We met in a freshman econ class where we both failed the first quiz and then studied together like redemption was an elective. He was the first person I told when I fell in love with Sophie. He stood next to me at my wedding and whispered "Don't faint" when the sanctuary felt smaller than it should. He came over with pizza the day we brought Liam home from the hospital and held the baby like he had just been given evidence that the world might be worth it. Anniversary parties are a kind of polite lie. They promise to celebrate the past while secretly testing the present. Our 20th was held in the back room of a restaurant Sophie loves because they slice the cake like it's a ceremony. White tablecloths, string lights, a wall of black and white photos meant to convince you the place has a history longer than the lease. My parents sat with our parents and made the noise that parents make when they agree that their children are a project they didn't realize would be this long. Friends packed the room. Liam wore the only shirt he owns that doesn't have a sports team on it and looked like a man in a photograph you'll pretend to hate. We ate the kind of food you pretend you don't know the price of. People stood and told stories, the rehearsal dinner when the power went out, the time the cat climbed into the dryer, the misadventure with a rental car in Santa Fe that ended with a tow truck and a new definition of patience. Sophie glowed. She does that at parties. She becomes the brightest thing in the room and pulls everyone into orbit. She squeezed my hand under the table, a coded language we created somewhere between the first mortgage and the second lost sock. When it was time for toasts, Eric stood. He didn't look nervous. He never looks nervous. He cleared his throat and tapped his glass and the room quieted the way rooms do when they trust a person to say something they won't regret applauding. He started sweet, because he's not an idiot. He talked about college and jobs and that time I insisted I could fix a garbage disposal and nearly broke my hand. He made a joke about Sophie teaching him to make risotto and how he still thinks al dente is an Italian warning label. People laughed. He let the laughter sit. Then he said it. He said it like a throwaway line, a wink only we would get, a harmless little insider, and here's to the secret meetings at the old cafe, Sophie, you know the one, because if 20 years teaches you anything, it's to keep the spark alive. He lifted his glass. The room did not laugh. It did not breathe. It held an expression I have only ever seen on faces in storms, when the sky changes color and you're not sure if you should admire it or run. Sophie's face went blank. Not confused. Blank. Like the software crashed and reloaded and hoped no one saw the screen flicker. She swallowed. Eric froze, eyes flicking from his glass to her to me like he was suddenly on stage without a script. My mother's hand went to her throat in a movement I recognized from funerals and low blood sugar. Sophie's mother's smile tightened into the one she uses for servers when they forget the dressing. Across the table, Liam looked at me, just a quick glance, a child checking the weather on a man's face. I smiled. I have no idea how. I did the thing you do when you need to buy a minute so you can figure out if your house is on fire. I raised my glass and said, "To al dente," because my brain picked the nearest joke and hoped people would climb on. A few nervous chuckles. The clink of crystal pretending to be a spell. Eric sat slowly, the way men sit when their knees don't trust them. After, people pressed hands to shoulders and made small talk louder than necessary. The cake tasted like sugar and surrender. Sophie excused herself to get more napkins she didn't need. I watched Eric lean toward her, whisper something, watch her flinch. Her father caught my eye across the room and gave me the kind of nod that means we'll talk when the children are asleep. Her mother came over and told me I looked thin. When the party ended and people carried centerpieces to their cars like souvenirs, we stood in the parking lot under a light that made everyone look guilty. Eric came over, his usual ease replaced by a kind of boyishness I hadn't seen since he was 19 and trying to borrow $50 for a textbook he never opened. "Mike," he started. "You made a joke," I said. "About a secret meeting." "It was a joke," he said quickly, like the word could retroactively change the air. "It was, God, man, it was a joke. I meant that place you guys like. The one with the lemon bars." He exhaled. I messed up the line. "Eric," Sophie said, voice low, edged. "Stop." He looked at her, then at me, and the world tilted. He rubbed a hand over his face like he could erase himself. "I knew," he said. Voice small. "I knew about the cafe. I thought," he shook his head. "I thought it was nothing. A phase. I thought if I said something, I'd make it bigger. I thought." He laughed once, a sound with no future. "I thought wrong." Sophie closed her eyes. "Not here," she whispered. I heard the plea in it and also the truth. It was already here. We drove home in a car the color of an argument. Liam sat in the back, seatbelt a taut line across a chest I can't believe I used to lift with one arm. He stared out the window, phone face down on his thigh like a soldier with orders. Sophie stared straight ahead, hands at 10 and 2 because control is a religion when the world starts to wobble. I watched the road and counted the lights and tried to keep my breathing even because I didn't know what sound would come out if I let it. We didn't talk in the kitchen because kitchens make everything feel domestic. We went to the living room where the couch is too nice for most nights. Liam sat on the edge of the ottoman like a witness. I took the chair near the window so I could look at the dark if I needed to. Sophie stood. She didn't sit. She said my name. "Michael." "Is there a cafe?" I asked, because the human brain requires nouns. "Yes," she said. She looked me in the eyes. She did not look away. "I'm sorry." There is a version of me that yells in this story, that throws something, that points at the door and at the calendar and at the photo from our wedding where we look like children who rented adult costumes. That version did not show up. The one who did was very tired and very old. "How long?" "Months," she said. "Not a year. Not one day. Months." "Eric knew," I said. "I told him," she said. "I told him when it started. I told him because he's your best friend and I knew he would tell me to stop." "He did," she added quickly, a hand reaching for a rope already cut. "He did tell me to stop. He didn't approve. He thought if he stayed near me he could. I don't know what he thought. He thought it would pass." She shook her head. "He was wrong. So was I." Liam spoke for the first time. "Who is he?" "No," I said, gently, "because there is a cliff you don't push a kid off if you can help it." "That's not the first question." I looked at Sophie. "Why?" She laughed, the worst kind of laugh, a single, hopeless bark. "Lonely," she said. "Predictable." She moved a hand to the side, a curtain pull. "Stupid." She swallowed. "You travel. You come home tired." I became a calendar. A manager. Someone's mother. Someone's wife who complains about towels. I met someone at the cafe after the gym and I felt she closed her eyes. I felt like a person who had a body and a name that didn't start with mom. It's not an excuse. It's a map I used to walk in the wrong direction. My father-in-law texted, then called. My in-laws have a talent for appearing when chairs are being moved. We told them to come. My parents came too because my mother believes proximity is a cure. Eric texted me twice, then stopped. Sophie's phone flipped, lit again. She put it face down on the mantel like a dog told to stay. Her parents arrived in a flurry, her mother carrying a Tupperware container because food makes her brave, her father carrying the expression of a man who has discovered his house has a leak and he is exactly the right wrench. We sat again, The circle tighter now, the air heavier. My mother put a hand on my shoulder. My father stood behind me in the shadow like backup. Sophie's father looked at her. "Is it true?" he asked, because men his age ask questions like they're checking a lock. She nodded. He nodded back. Once, a man accepting a math he didn't want to learn. He turned to me. "I'm sorry, Michael. It helped, and it didn't." Her mother didn't apologize. She started immediately with a defense that sounded practiced, maybe not for this, but for 1,000 small things that make you a mother who can't watch her daughter fail without a fight. "You work too much," she said to me. "You leave her alone. She carries everything and then what? She's supposed to just wait?" She gestured to the room like it was supposed to testify. "You're a good man, Michael. But good men forget." My mother inhaled sharply, the sound she makes when she sees a child reach for a hot pan. My father-in-law raised a hand, a quieting beat. "Stop," he said to his wife. "This is not that." He looked at Sophie. "He's not just your husband. He's my son-in-law. He's Liam's father. And he's your friend." He turned back to me. "He was his friend," he added, and I understood, he meant Eric. I was the one who said Eric's name next. It tasted like tin. He knew. Her father closed his eyes for a long moment, like he was praying or choosing words he wouldn't regret. "He knew and he did not tell you," he said finally. "That is 2 betrayals, not 1. Her mother leaned forward. "He was trying not to blow up the family," she said, voice high and thin, like something pulled too tight. "He made a mistake in the toast. He didn't mean—" "No," Liam said, and it was the first and only time that night he raised his voice. It wasn't loud. It was sharp. "It's not a mistake if you're already doing it." He looked at me. He didn't look at his mother. "I'm going to my room." He stood, walked carefully around the coffee table, went down the hall. The door closed gently. I would have preferred a slam. The next morning, Eric came over. I knew he would. He doesn't let fires burn without water. He stood on the porch like a man selling something he no longer believed in. I opened the door and we both stood there, the threshold a line we'd crossed and couldn't uncross. "Coffee?" I said, because hospitality is a reflex. "No," he said. He couldn't meet my eyes at first. When he did, he kept them there. "I'm sorry," he said. "For the toast. For all of it. I thought I was protecting you." He winced. "That sounds as bad as it is." "You thought if you said nothing it would end," I said. He nodded. "I thought if I pushed her too hard, she'd fall right into the thing. I thought if I told you, I'd lose both of you." "You did," I said. "It came out flatter than I meant. I wasn't going for poetry." He didn't argue. "I deserve that." He rubbed a hand over the back of his neck. "I told her to stop. 12 times. I told her this would." He groped for a word kinder than explode and came up empty. "I loved you both," he said. "That's not an excuse, I know. But it is the map of how I got here." "I don't want to hear about your map," I said. "I want to hear that you understand the thing you broke." He nodded again. "I do," he said. "I do now." Sophie came into the hall, hair wet from a shower she took like a ritual. She stood behind me. She didn't step around me. She looked at Eric the way you look at a photograph of yourself from 5 years ago, recognition and shame. "I'm sorry," he said to her, and it made me want to throw something, because I wasn't ready to watch them speak a language that used to include me. "We're done," she said quietly. "You and me. We're done." She looked at me. She stopped. "I'm talking to you later, Michael." She went back down the hall like someone walking into the ocean. Eric left. I closed the door and leaned my forehead against the wood in a posture I have always thought dramatic when I saw it in movies. It felt less dramatic from the inside. We made appointments. That's how Americans fix things. We saw a counselor in an office that smelled like tea and carpet cleaner. She had a box of tissues on a side table like a prop. We took turns talking while the other person stared at a plant that had never needed water in its life. Sophie said she felt like a function. I said I felt like an appliance. We both cried. The counselor said words like repair and trust work and boundaries. I nodded like I was in a meeting and forgot I was the problem the meeting was about. We told Liam only the pieces necessary to keep him from doing the math with incomplete numbers. We told him we loved him. We told him none of this was his job. He said okay, which is language for no. He started getting up earlier, making his own breakfast with a focus that made me proud and broke me. He stopped answering Sophie when she asked small questions, which is the cruelty children reserve for the parent who taught them language. He would say, "Dad, can you drive me to practice?" With an extra layer of care, like he was telling me he'd chosen a team without making a sign. Sophie moved into the guest room for a while. There is a kind of quiet that enters a house at night when two people love each other and hate what they have done with that love. We navigated the hall like diplomats. We texted about groceries. We over-communicated pickup times and forgot to talk about the thing requiring more than a calendar. Eric moved out of his apartment near the ballpark and into a smaller one farther away. He sent me an email with the subject line "no subject" and the content "I'm here if you ever want to." He didn't finish the sentence. I did not reply. Not because I wanted to hurt him. Because the words I had would have done that without improving any conditions in the house I slept in. Sophie's father came by twice a week with tools, fixing things that weren't urgent, the sticking drawer, the squeaky hinge. It was his way of reminding the house it could be maintained. He and I talked about baseball and then, sometimes, about forgiveness. He didn't preach. He sanded a corner and said, "It can be done." Then he handed me the sandpaper and waited to see if I would do some of it myself. Her mother called and asked about Liam in a tone that suggested I was depriving her of a grandson because I had failed to control a narrative. I was polite and unhelpful. She means well. She means her daughter. Mothers are constellations you learn to navigate or you sail into rocks. I asked Sophie for the truth without poetry. "Is it over?" She said yes. "Will he call?" She said he had tried. She had blocked him. "Why did you tell Eric?" She said because she wanted an adult who would say stop without leaving. "Why didn't you tell me?" She said because telling me felt like a demolition she wasn't ready to supervise. None of those answers made me feel better. They made me feel like I had a map with my house missing. We told the counselor we wanted to try. Not for the optics. Not for the party. For the 20 years that felt less fake when we said them out loud. The counselor said we needed rules. We made rules. No secrets. No private jokes that exclude the other person. No meeting anyone alone in a place you invented to feel special. It felt juvenile and necessary. We made another rule without writing it down: if we ever make it again to a restaurant back room with lights hung like stars, we will check the jokes at the door. We told Liam the only promise we could keep. "We are going to be kind," I said. "To you." "To each other." He nodded. He didn't soften, not then. He did, eventually, the way boys do, at a basketball game, in the car, on a Tuesday, when the song on the radio reminded him of something that made childhood feel possible. He let Sophie drive him to school one morning and came back with the smell of her lotion in the car like a neutral flag. Eric disappeared for a while and then didn't. He sent a letter. Real paper. He said he would be here if Liam ever wanted to talk basketball again, and if he didn't, he would respect that. He said he would never stand up and make a joke again. That one made me smile, which I hated. Months moved like furniture you didn't plan to lift. Holidays. School. Liam's driving test. Sophie's birthday. We shared a cake at the kitchen table with forks and no plates, like college kids. She said she was sorry again. I said I knew. The words didn't fix anything. They kept us from breaking anything else. We are, as they say in counseling, in process. We sleep in the same room more nights than not. Some nights we don't. We sit on the couch and watch a show about people buying houses they can't afford and make fun of their tile choices and laugh in the same places we used to. We still fight. We do it without breaking the furniture. We talk about the cafe in the past tense that makes my mouth taste like pennies. We drive past it sometimes, by accident, on purpose, and neither of us looks. On our 21st anniversary, Liam made us breakfast. He burned the toast and blamed the toaster like a grown man. He wrote a card that said thanks for trying in his awful handwriting and left it on my pillow. I cried in the shower because I'm a man who prefers water for my tears. Sophie stood in the doorway and didn't ask what was wrong. She knew. If you're waiting for a moral, I don't have one that won't curdle. I have this: the people you love will wound you in ways only they can, with tools you handed them. The people you love can also stay in the room when the stupid joke breaks the table. You can learn to speak again. It will never sound the same. Sometimes that's worse. Sometimes it's how you know you're not pretending. On a Sunday afternoon in spring, we sat in our backyard with coffee and watched Liam shoot at the hoop on the garage. He missed, then made again. He turned and looked at us and raised both arms like a question and a victory. Sophie clapped. I did too. The neighbor started a mower and the smell of cut grass rolled over the fence, and for a second I thought, this is what we look like from a distance, two adults clapping for a kid with a ball. No speeches. No toasts. No jokes. Just the quiet, miraculous work of being here. Thank you for listening my story. If you want more raw, real, and gripping stories like this one, subscribe to the AEN Stories channel. Your support keeps these stories alive.